If you have a gap in employment and you don't know how to explain it, I'm going to break down exactly what to do once and for all. This will take more than 30 seconds. So if you don't have time, bookmark it and come back. And also know that today I did a live podcast exclusively on this subject, and you can watch the recording inside my free resource center. No credit card required. The free resource center is linked in my bio or down here. But let's get into gaps in employment because a lot of people are struggling to address these. When I work with clients at work at Daily One on One, the first thing I'm trying to decide is if this is a voluntary or involuntary gap. And so a voluntary gap would be that you decided, like, you quit your job, you stepped away from your job, let's say maybe to care for a sick loved one, or maybe even cared for yourself. Maybe you needed some time to get healthy. It might also be that it was something exciting. You wanted to travel the world or go do something that was going to require a lot of your time and that you wouldn't be able to hold down your full-time job. Those are both what we would call sabbaticals. Caregiver sabbatical is actually a very common thing to put on a resume and a LinkedIn profile now, where you just explain, I took time off to care for a loved one. Again, it can be you. You just don't have to tell them that. It's none of their business who the loved one was. But if you were on caregiver sabbatical, that's totally acceptable to do. And then there are other sabbatical. Hey, I went on a sabbatical to train for 5 marathons or, sail around the world, whatever that is. Okay. That's the easiest of the explanations because they are what they are and you move on. But for a larger majority of you, the gap is coming from something where you either got laid off or fired, and finding a new job is taking longer than expected. A study at the time I'm recording this came out last week, and the Department of Labor said there's something like 1.6 million white-collar workers alone who have been looking for work over 6 months in the US, and there's about 7 million workers looking for work. So it's a super competitive job market right now, making it much harder to land a job, which makes it much longer for people to get a job. So there's some of that expectation to manage, but here's the thing you're up against. Right around the 6-month mark is when hiring managers and recruiters are starting to wonder why you haven't found a job by now. Like, what's going on? And so they're not saying you did anything wrong, but for you not to be able to look at the situation and claim it is going to be the issue. And that's the one thing I want you to take away from this right now. Nobody's saying you did anything wrong. Gosh knows we're all always trying to do the right thing in the moment in our career. But sometimes things don't turn out the way we want them to, or things happen to us, okay? In this case, you got laid off or you got fired, and getting a job wasn't as easy as it had been in the past. And maybe you were looking for work in certain ways only to find out, for example, that applying online, there's so much competition, you're not even being seen, right? There's a journey that you go through. And so what you want to do is grab some MOAs. We call them moments of accountability. And that's where you say, look, I'm going to reclaim my power here. I'm not going to be the victim. I'm going to look at this and say, knowing what I know now that I've been through however long this, break has been, this gap, what have I learned along the way? What would I have done differently? If this was to happen over again, how would I have approached this differently so that I didn't end up here with this gap in employment? That's what they want to hear. That's what the recruiter and hiring manager need to know, that you are learning from this experience. Again, they're not blaming you, but they're looking for a super smart professional who can learn from this very powerful experience. So here's an example of what that might look like. A moment of accountability might be like, wow, if you had told me 6 months ago or 9 months ago that I'd still be looking for a job, I'm going to be honest, I wouldn't have believed you. When I lost my job, I just assumed it'd be like all other times. I would apply for jobs online. I would get some interviews. I would land a job. But honestly, around the third or fourth month, I had heard it was a little bit more competitive, but that's when I started to really pay attention. Like it or not, I claim it, I own it. That's when I started to look under the hood and find out, wow, it's a lot worse of a job market than I thought it was. And that there were so many people applying online, my chances of being seen were a lot smaller. And this is the moment where I changed my strategy and tactics for getting hired. And so I'm hoping now, learning from that I will be able to land a job in what is a very competitive job market. And that's why I'm glad that I'm talking to you today, right? So you're not blaming yourself. There's no shame in what's happened to you. If anything, you're saying it is what it is. And here's how, I'm owning what's happened to me, and I'm going to use it to my advantage. I'm going to figure something out here. I'm going to make it happen for me. That's what they're looking for. And I have coached thousands of people on this every single month. You wouldn't believe the number of people that come in and they've been on interviews and they didn't think this through. And so they either tried to hide it or sweep it under the rug, or they're like, oh no, I answered the question great. And then they never hear from them again. Please understand this. Hiring managers, recruiters, HR folks, they're reading between the lines. They're looking at your body language, your voice tone. They can tell when something's off. So if you aren't fully at peace with how you answer this question, like I said, no shame, no embarrassment, just facts, and being able to claim it and own it and use it to your advantage, that's the vibe you need to give if you want to get hired right now. That is the truth. When you have an involuntary gap like this, you have got to go at it from that perspective because they can read between the lines. And I'll tell you, I've worked with so many people that once we get them there, they come in, they're like ready to go. They're like, JT, I'm so ready for that question. I hope they ask me. If they don't, I'm bringing it up because I'm so ready to talk about this. And they get there and it's no big deal. They get asked, hey, it looks like you've been out of work for a while. What's going on? They give their answer. They move on. That's all it is, folks. So I hope you take away from this that you can answer it. Moments of accountability are really key when you have an involuntary gap like this, but get knowledgeable and understand this stuff because it really makes a difference when you're trying to get hired in what is one of the most competitive job markets I've seen in my 20-year career as a career coach. So with that in mind, I wish I could work with every single one of you one-on-one, but I can't. So this year, my team and I put together a free resource center. I have $1,000 worth of free resources in there that other places are charging a boatload for. No credit card required. I'm giving it to you because I really want to work with you and I can't one-on-one. So the link is in my bio. Get inside my free resource center because I go live 3 times a week. I answer your questions in my live podcast. So that's the other thing. When you get in the free resource center, you will get reminders and be able to come to my live sessions or watch them. And this is how I'm going to teach you everything you need to know to make this the year of you. Hashtag your name 2025. Let's get you that new, better paying job. Let's get you happy in your career. Let's get you understanding what it's going to take to be successful because we can do that together. Okay. Good luck. I'll see you inside the free resource center.